So there's an interview with Sarah Hewson on Talk TV, and the Talk TV anchors, have I spelled that correctly? Yes. The Talk TV anchors are determined to push the agendum that Prince Harry is a bad boy who needs dumbing down, and Prince William needs to be flagged up. And you feel it's like listening to the Dan Wootton show again. And how do they know, for example, about William's position on this matter? We'll hear it. I'll play as much of this interview as I can, really. I'm afraid in the end it just gets tiresome, and it's about a lack of preparation for the interview and a lack of real knowledge, at the same time as giving a sort of wink, nose tapping gesture to indicate that they have significantly more information from the inside.
Let's talk about Harry.
Listen to
Sarah.
what's going on here.
There's been lots of, it's fantastic, he's back with the king, he saw his dear old dad last night, his dad's suffering from cancer. I think if you look at the picture, this guy flies 11, and by the way, credit to Harry for dropping everything and flying to see his stricken father. Credit to him for that. But the reception, to say it's been lukewarm, is the exaggeration of the century. The guy comes here, he goes to see his dad. 30 minutes later, Charles and Camilla are in a helicopter flying to Sandringham. William lets it be known he's not going to see him, and we understand that Harry may well be flying back later today, having been consigned to a hotel last night and not given any royal residence. I think this is the royal family saying, the way you've been behaving for the last 3 years, you are not forgiven. Thank you for coming. Now go home.
Look, I think this is not a time for judgment on either side. Look, Harry flew here to support his father, absolutely doing the right thing. We understand from reports in The Sun today that the king actually delayed his departure to Sandringham in order to welcome his son. They had a meeting at Clarence House, and the briefing from royal aides is that it may have been a relatively short meeting, but the king was feeling pretty tired after a procedure that he underwent as part of his...
He hasn't seen him since the coronation, Sarah.
Well,
30 minutes, 30 minutes.
We weren't in the room. Look, there's an awful lot of speculation that goes on. We weren't in the room. We don't know whether that meeting was warm or not. The king's just been diagnosed with cancer. I agree he hasn't seen him since the coronation, but we don't know what that conversation was like. And we also don't know whether there are further plans for a further meeting at some point or conversations. I would like to see this in a positive way as a starting point, an olive branch. Certainly he was welcomed into Clarence House. He was given the full security treatment that he has talked about needing so much coming from Heathrow Airport. Absolutely did the right thing coming to see his father, and any one of us would. Yes, it was perhaps a shorter meeting than we on the outside might have liked to see, but we just don't know what is going on behind closed doors.
We do know one thing, though, Sarah. We do know one thing. William is still seethingly furious with his brother and will not see him. I mean, this is a cold reception this guy has received, having flown 11 hours, no doubt hoping for some kind of family reunion. We were all hoping for a rapprochement. It hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I think maybe it was wishful thinking on all of our parts, wasn't it? Much as when we saw them out on the long walk at Windsor after the Queen's death, all hope that was going to be, snap your fingers and everything's better. Clearly, it's not going to be healed that quickly. The Prince of Wales, no plans to meet up with his brother. Looking at it in the cold light of day, he has got an awful lot else going on at the moment with caring for his wife and his children, as well as taking on his father's duties. That's absolutely his priority now. I think we all feel that we would have liked to see this reconciliation, but maybe it's the public wanting it more than those that are actually involved in this right now. And there is a big issue of trust. And there will be, perhaps this is one chance to start healing. If Prince Harry goes back to California and none of the conversations that have taken place over the past 24 hours end up being briefed out to sources in the media, then perhaps that might be the start of further conversations. But at the moment, there is a big issue of trust. They're very wary about the kind of conversations they have and what is revealed and whether it's going to end up in the public domain.
I mean, Sarah, I'm interested actually that you picked up on something that I observed the other day, which is when we did see those pictures of Prince Harry arriving, we did see, of course, a police escort, something that he'd been fighting in court to try and get. So that's an indication, I think, to some degree that there might have been a little bit of give and take on his father's side. But we don't yet know how long Harry's going to be in the country, do we?
No, but I think Harry's arrival would all have been coordinated with the palace. So he then became part of that bigger royal protection scenario. That's the thing that he's been arguing for. He's continuing to argue for with the Home Office. He has been told that he needs to give 28 days notice if he and his family want to have their security detail reviewed by the Home Office when they return. But obviously in this case, it was an emergency. He was coming under special circumstances and it was given the green light by the palace. So I think we can see that, you know, very much Prince Charles was wanting his son to come back and wanting to smooth the path for that. King Charles, rather, I should say, smooth the path for that. But it is certainly a big issue for Harry and a battle that he's continuing to fight.
I mean, I don't want to undermine. Obviously, the King's very sick at the moment, and perhaps, as you say, Sarah, he was exhausted. But I'm sorry, I still find it astonishing. 30 minutes, 11 hours he flew. 30 minutes, not given a royal residence, and now he's going to fly back. So let's hope that relations get warmer between the entire family. But let's talk about William, as you nicely outlaid earlier. He's already thrusting himself into duties. There was a piece, I think, in the Mail this morning saying that the burden on William now will be immense. He was expecting the next few months until Easter to be a light time in terms of royal duties because he was going to be looking after his wife and the kids. Instead, he's working harder than ever. So it is a big burden on his shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, if you think just back 18 months ago, he was second in line to the throne. His destiny seemed a long way off, didn't it? But now, with, you know, his father's illness, and that puts someone's mortality into sharp focus, doesn't it? And you can only imagine the thoughts that are going through the Prince of Wales's head right now about what his future holds and when that might be. Look, we know that the King is wholly optimistic about his treatment and we all hope that he makes a full recovery. But Prince William is already going to have to step up and take on greater responsibilities at what is, as you described there, Kevin, a really, really difficult time when he should have been taking a bit more time out, or wanted to, certainly, a bit more time out. And he and Kate had a plan that they want to give their kids as much normality as possible and protect them from the future for as long as they possibly can, while also preparing them for it. But they're being propelled closer and closer to it.
I think an interesting thing that's come out is the fact that we've learnt that King Charles will have his weekly audience with the Prime Minister by telephone, not by Zoom conference call or similar, which to me suggests quite how gruelling this medical intervention may be.
Yeah, potentially, although I guess the King is quite old school as well in some regards, Alex. So it may be that he is more comfortable in that, although we certainly saw the late Queen embracing video call during the COVID period, didn't we? So that weekly meeting, look, that's going to be under review as well. So there may be times, we're told, I think we're getting into a pattern where the King is going to return to London for his treatment and then he will head back to the countryside, to Sandringham, as he has done this week, and then back to London again for treatment, but also some areas of business. So there may be some of those meetings that take place in person in Buckingham Palace, depending on how the King is feeling, but others will take place by telephone or by video call. The Privy Council meetings likewise.
Sarah, thank you ever so much. Thank you so much for the update. Reem, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, during the latter stages of the Queen's life, the palace were incredibly controlled about the images that they released of the Queen. And I remember when we all saw that picture of her meeting Liz Truss, who had just become Prime Minister. I think we all thought, doesn't she look very sweet, but doesn't she look quite small and quite old? And of course, it was moments in time, really, before she tragically passed away. I would imagine that the palace also want to maintain that sort of dignity and decorum around the king as he goes through this treatment.
They definitely have, but they have also been incredibly honest. I think this is definitely coming from the king himself. The honesty around his diagnosis, the honesty to the public around the difficulties that this kind of cancer really does have, the toll that it takes on him as an individual. And I think it's really wonderful to see. I think it, first of all, the awareness that it provides for prostate cancer for many people.
He hasn't got prostate cancer.
Sorry, which cancer does he have?
That's why he has. He's been half transparent. He said, "I've got cancer." The palace have stressed it's not prostate.
And here they've got in another specialist, another authority, who doesn't know what she's talking about. I mean, for God's sake! If you're going to spin all these stories, at least get your facts right before you sit down in front of a camera. Oh, madness! Amateur hour.